What does it matter what the kids wear to school? Ask your parents for money. My husband said, then used my card for his mom's $5,000 Turkey trip, who later insulted and accused me falsely. I looked at the phone screen, and warmth spread through my chest. $5,000 help for getting the children ready for school from my parents. To my personal card, with a clear note, for Owen and Kira. I ran my finger over the screen, as if trying to touch these numbers to feel their weight. A kaleidoscope of images immediately appeared in my head. New backpacks, bright pencil cases, mountains of textbooks, sports uniforms, comfortable shoes. And also after-school clubs. Owen had long dreamed of a robotics club, and Kira dreamed of dancing. All of this required investment, and I knew this better than anyone. I sighed, leaning back in the kitchen chair. How tired I was of this constant race for survival. Constant saving, denying myself everything, working to exhaustion, just to somehow make ends meet. Yes, my husband Ian worked, but his salary was barely enough to pay for utilities and food. Everything else fell on my shoulders. Part-time jobs, freelancing, help from my parents. I was spinning like a squirrel in a cage, dreaming of only one thing, that my children would not want for anything. This help from my parents was like a breath of fresh air. It was not that they had not helped before, but recently I had tried to accept their help as rarely as possible. I wanted independence. I wanted to prove to everyone, and first and foremost to myself, that I could handle it. But sometimes circumstances were stronger than me. I remembered a conversation with my mom a few weeks ago. My mother had asked for a long time about preparing for school, about plans for the future. I reluctantly talked about my problems, trying not to complain, but a mother's heart cannot be deceived. My mother understood everything and offered help. "My dear, I see how hard it is for you," she had said then. "Do not refuse our help. We want our grandchildren to have everything. It is for them, you understand." I was silent for a long time then, holding back tears. I was ashamed that I could not provide my children with a decent future, but at the same time, I felt immense gratitude to my parents for their love and support. Now, looking at this money in my account, I had mixed feelings: joy, relief, gratitude, and a slight pang of guilt. Guilt for not being able to manage on my own. I opened a notebook and started making a list of necessary purchases. Uniforms, 2 for each, so there would always be a clean one. Shoes, indoor shoes, sports shoes, autumn boots. Stationery, notebooks, pens, pencils, paints, albums. The list grew with each minute. Then I added the payment for the clubs to the list. Robotics for Owen, it was his dream. And dancing for Kira, she loved to move to music so much. I imagined how the children's eyes would light up when they found out about it. I smiled, anticipating their joy. This money was not just numbers on a screen. It was my children's dreams, their future. And I would do everything possible to make these dreams a reality. In the evening, when Ian came home from work, I decided to share this news with him. I had been waiting for him impatiently, imagining how happy he would be. Ian came into the apartment, tired and irritable. He threw his bag on the floor and went to the kitchen, where I was already setting the table. "Is something wrong?" I asked, noticing his gloomy look. "Nothing special," Ian grumbled. "The boss was picking on me again. I am sick of these reports." I sighed. I knew that Ian did not like his job, but what could be done? There was no other prospect for now. "I have good news for you," I said, trying to sound cheerful. "My parents helped us with preparing for school. They transferred $5,000. Ian frowned. "Why?" he asked. I bring money home." I tried to explain. "Ian, you know how expensive everything is now. This money will be just enough for all the necessities: uniforms, shoes, stationery, clubs." Ian interrupted me. "The clubs can wait. The main thing is to dress and shoe them. And the clubs are just an indulgence." I felt irritation starting to rise inside me. "It is not an indulgence, Ian, it is the children's development. Owen dreams of robotics, Kira of dancing. Well, they will dream, and then they will stop. Ian waved his hand dismissively. There is no need to spoil the children. I barely contained my anger. I am not going to cancel anything, I said firmly. This is money for the children, and I will decide how to spend it. Ian looked at me defiantly. And maybe I know better how to spend money, he asked. I looked at him silently, not believing my ears. Was he really saying this? Did he not understand how hard it was for me? This is my parents' money, Ian, I said quietly. They gave it specifically for the children, and I will not let you spend it on anything else. Ian shrugged his shoulders. We will see, he said, turning away. I finished my dinner in silence, trying not to look at Ian. My head was spinning with thoughts of the upcoming purchases, of the clubs for the children, of the new life I had so dreamed of creating for them. I felt a slight pang of anxiety as I took my phone out of my pocket. An unknown number. Usually only my work or Owen's school called me. I answered, holding the phone to my ear with my shoulder while I rummaged in my bag for my apartment keys. It was the bank. An automated voice politely informed me that the entire amount of $5,000 had just been transferred from my account. I froze on the threshold, as if doused with ice water. What amount? What transfer? Flashed through my mind. I mechanically inserted the key into the lock, but could not turn it. My hands were shaking. Entering the apartment, I immediately dialed the bank's number, trying to explain the situation. The operator, after checking the information, confirmed the withdrawal and provided the recipient's details. Ian Smith, the voice on the phone said dryly. The world around me swam. Ian. My Ian. The same one who had grumbled about expensive clubs for the children yesterday, the same one who had promised me support and understanding. I dropped my bag on the floor and, without taking off my coat, went into the living room. Ian was sitting on the sofa, engrossed in his phone. Empty chip bags and a half-empty beer bottle lay on the coffee table. Ian, I called softly, trying to remain calm. I just got a call from the bank. $5,000 was withdrawn from my account. Do you know anything about it? Ian looked up, gave me an indifferent look, and shrugged. Yeah, I do. So what? I felt a wave of indignation rising inside me. So what, Ian? That is the money my parents gave for the children, for school, for clubs. Where did you spend it? Ian put down his phone and yawned. I bought my mom a trip to Turkey. She had been dreaming of it for a long time. I was speechless. I could not believe my ears. You spent the money intended for our children on a trip for your mother? Without my knowledge? Knowing that it was designated money. So what? Mom is tired, she needs a rest. And the children, we can buy them cheaper things, a uniform from a discount store, sneakers from the market. Nothing will happen to them. His words sounded like a slap in the face. Humiliation burned me from the inside. I remembered the long years dedicated to the family, the endless compromises, my own forgotten dream. I remembered how I had denied myself everything so that the children would not want for anything. And now, all of it was trampled on by his one irresponsible act. And where did you get my card number? I asked, trying to speak calmly, although everything inside was boiling. Well, I sometimes use your phone when mine is dead. Once I saw you entering the details to pay for utilities, so I wrote it down, Ian threw out carelessly. I felt completely powerless. He did not even feel the need to hide his lies. He just takes what he needs, without thinking about the consequences. Do you realize what you have done? I whispered, feeling a lump rising in my throat. This money is not just money. It is hope. It is an opportunity to give our children what we did not have. You have deprived them of that. Oh, come on. Why are you screaming? Ian snapped. Ask your parents for more. They have money to burn. They will not go broke. At that moment, something inside me broke. It was the last straw. I could not take it anymore. I could not tolerate his immaturity, his selfishness, his disrespect. I could not live in this humiliation anymore. You know what, Ian? I said quietly, looking him straight in the eye. I am not going to ask my parents for anything anymore. I am not going to ask you for anything anymore. Ian raised his eyebrows in surprise. Who needs you? I did not answer. I just turned and went into the bedroom. My heart was pounding in my chest. I felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from me. Of course, there was fear. Fear of the unknown, of the future, of loneliness. But this fear was nothing compared to the feeling of suffocation I felt being around Ian. Fragments of conversations with my friends, with my mom, flashed through my mind. They all told me the same thing: stop tolerating it. You deserve better. But I always found an excuse for Ian, telling myself that he would change, that everything would work out. But nothing changed, and things did not get better. I took a folder with documents from the drawer. Inside were Owen's and Kira's birth certificates, our marriage certificate, a statement from the housing office. I took out a clean sheet of paper and started writing a statement. A divorce statement. My hands were shaking, but I wrote firmly and confidently. Every word was difficult, but I knew it was necessary, that it was the only way out. After finishing the statement, I sat on the bed and closed my eyes. Tears streamed down my cheeks on their own. I cried from resentment, from disappointment, from pain. But at the same time, I felt relief. I had finally made a decision. I would no longer let anyone humiliate me. I would be the master of my own life. At that moment, Ian entered the room. He stood in the doorway, his arms crossed over his chest, and looked at me with contempt. "Well, what are you doing here?" he asked, smiling mockingly. "Are you going to leave? Who needs you but me? Who will take you with 2 children?" I looked up at him with teary eyes. There was no more fear in them, only determination. "My children need me," I answered in a firm voice. "And I will prove to them that you can be happy even if you are alone. And as for you, Ian, I wish you to realize what you have lost." Ian still did not understand what had happened. He thought I was bluffing. He was used to me always forgiving him. But this time, it was different. In the evening, Ian came home, anticipating the usual smell of freshly brewed coffee and the quiet chatter of children getting ready for school. But instead, he was met with a ringing silence. The apartment seemed empty and alien, like a set for a play in which he had forgotten his role. "Anna?" "Children," he called out uncertainly, walking deeper into the apartment. The answer was silence, oppressive and ominous. In the kitchen, on the table, he noticed a folded sheet of paper. His heart ached painfully. He recognized my neat handwriting. His hands trembled as he unfolded the letter. The text was dry and formal, like an excerpt from a protocol. I did not pour out my soul, did not allow myself any reproaches or excuses. I simply stated the facts. "Ian," the letter began, "in connection with your decision to dispose of the funds intended for the education of our children, and my disagreement with this decision, I have decided to temporarily reside with the children at my mother's. On the table, you will find copies of documents confirming the designated purpose of the transferred funds, as well as a bank statement. A lawyer has prepared an official demand for the return of the specified amount within 5 days. Otherwise, we will be forced to go to court." Ian put down the letter and grabbed the other papers. Copies of bank documents confirming the transfer from my mother with the note for the children. A statement from the account showing the withdrawal of the entire amount. And finally, the most terrifying thing, a notice of intent to file for divorce and a statement on the temporary residence of the children with their mother. He felt the ground slipping from under his feet. A divorce. I had really decided to do it. He had always considered me too soft, too dependent to take such a step. He was mistaken. Panic engulfed him. He tried to call me, but my phone was turned off. He called again and again, but in response, he only heard the monotonous, "The subscriber is temporarily unavailable." In desperation, he dialed his mother's number. "Mom, something has happened. Anna left," he mumbled, trying to hide the tremor in his voice. "What do you mean left? Where?" shrieked his mother. Ian briefly recounted the situation, trying to embellish his role in what had happened. He omitted the money spent on the trip, presenting everything as my sudden whim. "She is just a hysteric," his mother exclaimed. "Do not pay any attention. She will come back on her own. Where will she go with 2 children on her hands? Without you, she is nobody." But Ian felt that this time it was serious. There was no hesitation or doubt in my voice when I spoke of divorce, only steel. His mother continued to pour out a stream of insults against me, accusing me of ingratitude and greed. Ian listened with half an ear, sinking into an abyss of despair. He knew he had made a mistake, but admitting it even to himself was beyond him. "Listen, Mom, I am not in the mood for this right now," he finally interrupted her. "I need to figure out what to do next." "What to do?" "Get her back," his mother insisted. "Are you a man or what?" "Show her who is the boss in the house." Ian hung up and sank into a chair. The boss? Yes, he had always considered himself the boss in this house. But now he was left alone in an empty apartment. Without a wife, without children, and with the prospect of a lawsuit. I was sitting in a small room in my mother's apartment. The children, Owen and Kira, were engrossed in playing on the carpet, unaware of the storm that had broken out in their parents' lives. I watched them, and my heart filled with pain and hope. I felt guilty before them for destroying their familiar world, but I knew I had no other choice. My mother, Nina, entered the room with 2 cups of tea. "How are you, my dear?" she asked, sitting down next to me. "I am fine, Mom," I replied, trying to smile. "Everything will be fine." Nina took my hand in hers. "I know it is hard for you right now," she said, "but you are strong. You will get through this. We will all help you." I felt a lump rising in my throat. I hugged my mother, and tears involuntarily rolled down my cheeks. "Thank you, Mom," I whispered. "Thank you for everything." That same day, I met with my lawyer, Olivia. Olivia was a young, energetic woman who inspired confidence and hope in me. "So, Anna," Olivia said, "we are filing a lawsuit to recover the funds that Ian spent for a purpose other than intended. We are also filing for divorce and determining the father's visitation rights. Do you have any special requests?" "I want the children to see their father," I replied, "but only in my presence or in the presence of my mother. I do not trust him." "All right," Olivia said, "we will take your wishes into account. And one more thing, Anna, think about the division of property." "Do you have a joint apartment, a car?" I sighed. The division of property seemed like such a dirty and humiliating business, but I knew it was necessary. "I will think about it, Olivia," I said. "Thank you for your help." In the evening, when the children were already asleep, I was sitting in the kitchen, drinking tea. The doorbell rang. I opened the door and saw a courier with a package in his hands. "For Ian," the courier said, handing me the package. I took the package and closed the door. The package was labeled, "Lawsuit." I knew this was the beginning of a new chapter in my life. A chapter in which I would write my own story. I put the children's backpacks in the hallway, ready for the next day. A new day, a new life. I lived with my parents. Owen and Kira seemed to quickly adapt to the new environment. My mother always had time for her grandchildren. She would read them a bedtime story, bake a pie, or help them with their homework. I watched them and felt the paralyzing fear gradually recede. Yes, it was hard. Yes, the future seemed uncertain. But I had my children for whom it was worth living and fighting. I sat at the kitchen table, looking through the documents the lawyer had sent. Divorce, division of property, determining the father's visitation rights. It all seemed complicated and frightening, but I knew it was necessary, that it was the only way to break out of the vicious circle of dependence and humiliation. I signed all the necessary documents and sent them back to Olivia. After that, I felt a little better, as if I had taken another step towards freedom. At that time, Ian received a court summons. He sat in his apartment alone, surrounded by things that no longer brought him joy. The apartment seemed empty and cold without me and the children. His mother, of course, blamed me for everything, saying that I was ungrateful, that I did not appreciate Ian's care, that I had deliberately started a scandal over some money. But Ian was only half listening. For the first time in a long time, he began to think about his actions. He remembered the look on my face when he told me about buying the trip for his mother. Shock, disappointment, pain. He had seen it all in my eyes, but at the time, he had not paid it any attention. He was sure that I would forgive everything, that I would always support him, that I was convenient. And now I was gone. I had left, taken the children, filed for divorce. And most importantly, I had demanded the money back. The money he had spent on a trip for his mother without consulting me, without thinking about the consequences. Ian knew he had made a mistake. A huge, unforgivable mistake. He had considered me weak, dependent, convenient. But it turned out that I was stronger than he thought. I had found the strength to leave, to start a new life, to protect my children. And what had he done? He had destroyed his family, betrayed his wife's trust, hurt his children. He tried to call me, but I did not answer. He sent me messages, begging for a meeting, asking for forgiveness. But it was all in vain. I did not want to see him, did not want to hear him. Ian sat in the armchair, his head bowed. He felt crushed, broken, worthless. He realized that he had lost the most valuable thing he had, his family. And he was the only one to blame. His mother continued to insist that I would come back, that I could not live without him, that I was just scared of difficulties. But Ian did not believe her. He knew I would not come back. He had seen determination, confidence, and strength in my eyes. He knew that I was no longer going to be convenient. And what about him? What would happen to him? He was afraid of being alone. He was afraid of facing the consequences of his actions. He was afraid of losing everything. Meanwhile, I was busy with the children. I took Owen to a robotics class and Kira to a dance class. I saw their eyes light up with joy, how engrossed they were in their activities. And that gave me strength, gave me confidence. After class, we went to the park, bought ice cream, rode the carousels. I tried not to think about the court case, about Ian, about the future. I just wanted to enjoy the moment, to be with my children, to give them love and care. In the evening, when the children were already asleep, I sat in the kitchen with my mother. We drank tea and talked about everything under the sun. You know, Annie, my mother said, I always knew you were strong. You just needed time to realize it. I smiled. I knew that my mom had always believed in me, even when I did not believe in myself. Thanks, Mom, I said. For everything. Oh, come on, my dear, my mother replied. I will always be there. I will always help. I hugged my mom and felt how warm and calm I was with her. I knew I was not alone, that I had support, that I would overcome all difficulties. I started looking for a part-time job. I needed money to provide for myself and the children. I posted an ad online, called acquaintances, went to interviews. It was not easy, but I did not give up. I was offered a job in a small clothing store. The work was not difficult, but it required a lot of time and effort. I accepted. I needed the money, and I was ready to work. I also started seeing a therapist. I needed to understand myself, to understand why I had tolerated humiliation and insults for so long, how to build new relationships, how to be happy. The therapist helped me to realize my worth, to believe in myself, to let go of the past. I gradually changed. I became more confident, independent, and happy. I was no longer going to be convenient. I decided to live my own life, to take care of my children, to build my future.